Saturday morning, Small Business Saturday around the Monterey Bay area and everywhere for that matter across America. And it's time for us to talk technology with Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Do you have a good Thanksgiving?
Awesome Thanksgiving. Ate way too much, drank just enough.
Okay.
And started doing some shopping on Friday, and now we'll be continuing along that route today, heading out and seeing if we can find some gifts for our granddaughter and some of our family members. You know, we generally, I think a lot of people as they get older, you start really just focusing on the grandkids and the smaller kids in the family. So that's our nieces and nephew and granddaughter. So we're looking forward to finding them some stuff today and into the rest of the week.
Sounds pretty good. Did you have a tryptophan coma on Thursday after that big dinner?
I think I broke out in the meat sweats at one point on Thursday afternoon. So.
Oh, that's great.
I just love turkey, man. I'm
so
a glutton
good
for that.
Especially with the gravy on Thanksgiving. Man, it's the best. It is so good. Hey, let's talk about 10 ways to protect yourself against scams during Black Friday or Cyber Monday. We had Black Friday yesterday, so let's move ahead to Cyber Monday coming up in just a couple of days. All those big deals on websites all over the internet. And of course, besides the fact that there are so many great deals waiting for you, there's also lots of scammers waiting for you as well.
There are a lot of shady characters out there trying to take your money from you, legitimately or illegitimately, and it's up to us to protect ourselves. So some of these tips that we're going to talk about are things that you should practice year-round. But in particular, this time of year, it seems like we're happy. We're watching our Christmas shows on TV, and we're having a great time with family, and we let our guard down a little bit. And it's well known to the bad guys that we become a little bit more susceptible to being exploited. So here's some things that I think we need to remain vigilant about and protect yourself against the bad guys.
All right. Well, fire away, Captain.
So first off, we're going to get a lot of emails, more emails this time of year than ever before from stores and online shopping places. And some of those things will include a lot of links. And one of the recommendations we always make is if you get an email from somebody that you don't recognize, it doesn't look like it's a legitimate site, or it's not somebody that you've ever gotten an email from before, and it includes links, even things like, hey, 50% off the latest iPhone. It sounds a little too good to be true. Be careful about that. Or one of the fastest ways to infect your computer with Trojans, and one of the fastest way to get access to your systems and access to all the critical information that you don't want the bad guys to have. The same thing with emails that include attachments. Rare, if not completely unknown, to have a retailer send you an email that has a PDF or a Word document attached to it. Generally, that's not the way they do business. They put everything in the body of the email. So if you get an email from Macy's, for example, or from Amazon, and it has a PDF attached saying, hey, open the PDF so you can see what our latest deals are, don't do it. Just delete that email. And if you do want to know what the latest deals are, then just go on to that particular retailer's page, whether it's Amazon or Macy's or Best Buy, and check out whatever deals they got advertised on the page of the website, because that's where you're going to find it anyway.
And I guess generally you don't want to respond to unsolicited emails that are in your inbox. Click here to get a great deal on this. Although, if you shop with Macy's, they're going to send you stuff, or Best Buy. I mean, if it's someone you already have a retail relationship with, it would be natural that they would send you emails, be in your inbox with links to their website for shopping, But if it's like just somewhere you've never shopped before, and all of a sudden you have something in your inbox from them, boy, that ought to really put the red flag up.
Exactly. It's something that should get your spidey senses tingling. But like you said, if it's a known retailer or a known vendor that you've done business with in the past, there's nothing wrong with trusting those emails, but just remain suspicious and vigilant, because it's important that you protect yourselves, because nobody else is going to protect yourselves. And along those lines, don't, when you see a pop-up on a website or an ad on a website that pops up, don't click on anything on those things. Those are not necessarily something that's going to infect your computer, but there are things that get downloaded into your computer to track your every move and to try to detect your shopping patterns and try to get you to buy something that you may not necessarily want to buy. So these get implanted largely come from these pop-ups and these ads that people click on, thinking that there's something to be had.
Yeah, my old man bricked 2 of his computers. He had 2 different laptops over a period of like a couple of years. He turned them into bricks by clicking on pop-ups. Like, Dad, don't click on those. It's not a good deal on new tools. Just don't. Yeah. After the second computer, he stopped using. After the second one, he stopped using computer for about 4 years.
Well, sometimes you get kind of scared straight and decide I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right. Hey, what about e-skimmers? We got to beware of those. Tell us about e-skimmers.
Yeah, we talked about this a few weeks ago. E-skimmers are kind of the digital equivalent of the traditional hardware devices that the bad guys put on credit card devices like at gas stations or even ATMs, where they will put this device on top of the legitimate scanning device. And when you scan your credit card, you're really giving them all that information, including your PIN, because you're sometimes asked if you're using a debit card to put in your PIN. So it's really important that as much as possible, when you go to a website and you are going to enter your information, try to use a third party to do the transaction, whether that's PayPal. A lot of people are using Venmo now because it's a real popular pay site. Don't ever use a debit card on online transactions. Pointed out in the past, when you use a credit card, you're protected to some degree and your liability is limited to $50 if for some reason that transaction turns out to be fraudulent. But if you're using a digital, or it comes right out of your bank account, not only have you given the bad guys money, you've also given them access to that bank account because now they know the number and the PIN that you had to enter. So debit cards are great for shopping at stores and other places, but never use them for online transactions.
Now, speaking of e-skimmers or just skimmers in general, sometimes when you go to the gas station, pay at the pump, if you use a debit card, which a lot of people will because maybe they only have a debit card, but if you use a debit card, oftentimes when you first put the card in, it will ask you, is this a debit card? Don't say yes. Say no. Then the next thing you'll get is enter your zip code. And what it's doing is it's treating your debit card as a credit card transaction. If you say, yes, it's a debit card, then they're going to ask you for your PIN. If there's a skimmer on that, it's going to end up with your card number and your PIN. If you are in a situation where you end up using your debit card at a store on a skimmer, either put in that it's, not a debit card. Basically, you lie to them and there's no penalty for doing that. You're just you're going to run the transaction as a credit card and you're going to get extra protection that way. And you can always say to the clerk at the store, I'd like to run this as a credit card transaction. If they ask you for the debit PIN, say, no, I want to run this as a credit card. And they might ask you to insert the card again or swipe it again. But that way you're protecting yourself somewhat.
Oh, good advice. Very good advice. A lot of us don't really take the time to protect ourselves against these little things that might end up costing us a lot of money, and just being vigilant and being aware that not everything can be as it appears is a good way to approach life, unfortunately, in today's world.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the operative right there. All right, moving on to the next one here. We've got use a credit card. That kind of ties into the last one that we did, doesn't it? Use a secure network to shop. Now, this is a big one. A lot of times we go into a business, we might be in a restaurant, we're waiting for our food, we decide to go online and do a little shopping, and one of the problems that you run into, we're going to use the Wi-Fi that the store has. It's a free Wi-Fi that doesn't require any sort of password. Well, that means that anybody can intercept that Wi-Fi and actually get the information from it, right, Lewis?
Exactly. And free Wi-Fi is the biggest way that cyber criminals can get access to your system, because just like you pointed out, if you can get on there without any sort of special security code, they can too. And once they're on that network, they have the ability, using some technical means, to scan the network, identify who's on there, identify what systems are on there, vulnerabilities of those systems, and be able to tap into that device, or just put a data capture system on that Wi-Fi network so that they can monitor everything that's going on, every bit and byte that's going across that network, and then later on they can use some technology to unbind that information and then get things like credit card numbers and PINs and those sorts of things. So if you're going to do shopping at a public place, either make sure that they have a Wi-Fi password set up and that it's a secure network, or better yet, use a VPN, virtual private network, that you can use on your desktop, even your smartphone, so that it encrypts encrypts all the information going between you and the site that you're transacting business on.
Louis, it isn't always necessary to get on the internet by tying into a public Wi-Fi or any kind of Wi-Fi where you happen to be with your telephone. A lot of times you can use the data that you're paying for on your phone. And the way that you make sure, as I understand it, the way you make sure that your phone doesn't attempt to access the internet, via the free Wi-Fi is that you go into the Wi-Fi under settings, turn it off. And that forces your phone to use its own data to gain access to the internet. Is there any security in doing that, or is there any danger in doing that?
There's no danger, and it's a very secure connection because it's basically you're using your data plan to connect directly to the cell tower, and there's no way to intercept that information unless, of course, it's a fake cell tower, and that's a whole different conversation.
Right.
But by and large, if you're doing it that way, then you're using the most secure means to transact business, and it's something that we recommend versus using public Wi-Fi.
Number 7, there's no free lunch.
Yeah, be suspicious of anything that shows up in your inbox that says free, because typically it's a way to get you to click on something that is going to either infect your PC or somehow adversely impact you. The word free, and even if it's a pretty email with lots of graphics and it looks pretty legit, if you see something from a vendor and they say they're doing it free, just go to their website, pop up, open a browser, go there, and if it's legitimate free offer, it's probably going to be on their website as well. And you can trust it there, but just don't click on anything that comes into your inbox.
Diversify your accounts.
We've talked about this before. A lot of times people will use the same password and the same email address credentials for all the sites that they visit, whether it's Amazon or Best Buy or whatever. And the reality is that you should consider using different passwords as much as possible. And sometimes that's hard to keep track of, but there's a lot of good password managers out there that you can get that are pretty inexpensive. They'll help you keep track of all of those passwords so that you can, you may use the same email address for every site that you go to. You can create a new password and then use that password manager to gain access so that you don't have to try to remember complex multiple passwords.
Monitor your accounts. How do you do that?
Well, that's where you as a consumer need to be aware of what's going on with your account, whether that's subscribing to a notification service that your credit card company or your a debit card company provides you. Most banks will do that for you. Or if you're like me and you have a MasterCard or an American Express, you can download their app and keep track of all of your transactions and monitor those in real time, as well as look at them at the end of the day to make sure that there's nothing on there that you didn't expressly put on there yourself.
And let's see, finally, beware gift card scams.
Yeah, so a lot of times the bad guys will use gift cards as a way to separate you from your money. So you might get a call from somebody saying, hey, let's get you a gift card, and then you load it up, but they have that gift card information themselves. They have the number. So as soon as you load up that number, they're able to steal that information. Or sometimes, this is not something that's related to the holidays, but there's stories of scams where people get calls asking them to go down to the store and get gift cards and then give those gift cards, bring those gift cards someplace so that they don't get, in lieu of paying a parking ticket or in lieu of some fine that they're going to have otherwise. And all of those scams sound pretty legit, but they are just that. They're just scams.
Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, going back to diversifying your passwords, a lot of times people will create a Word doc with all the websites that they go to on a regular basis with all the passwords on them. And if you're going to do that, you might want to print out a copy and maybe keep it in a locked desk at home. So if you ever get broken into, somebody doesn't, steal it. But the other thing is, if you're going to keep it on your computer, either put it in, like if you're in Windows 10, you could put it in a locked folder, but don't keep it on the desktop, titled like Lewis's secret passwords for all of my accounts.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway. You can also assign a document a password, which is another way to protect it, so that way when you open it, you have one master password that isn't used anywhere else, but just for that particular document, and it gives you access to all of those other passwords. But yeah, don't make it a point of highlighting it on your desktop or in the file that you stored, and give it a name that isn't going to be obvious.
I'm reminded of something kind of similar. Years ago, when I was a kid, my uncle had a brick and mortar, record store, and I would work a closing shift with him, and we would lock the place up at night. And before we'd leave, there were a couple of rooms in the back of the store that had been listening booths for back in the days when people could go in and listen to a record and put like headphones on and hear it. And we'd close those down years ago and turn them into storage spaces, but there were no locks on the doors. So, somebody could walk in there and say hi, and they were not soundproof or anything. So we'd be closing up at night, and he would be walking back that way and announce in a very loud voice. And he was just this is just the way he was, hey, I'd better go back and check those listening rooms and make sure there's nobody hiding in there. It's like, oh, great. They can be ready to slug you over the head when you open the door. But the point is don't be obvious. That's the point is don't be obvious with the ways that you attempt to protect your security. You have to, you got to practice a little subterfuge, just like the people that want to get access to your documents.
Exactly. Like I said, buyer beware, caveat emptor. It's up to us to protect ourselves because nobody else is going to do it for us.
Exactly. All right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joining us this weekend to kick things off for us with some great tips on cybersecurity for the holiday shopping season. Online, it's alvareztg.com. At AlvarezTG is the Twitter handle. And Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.